History remembers Zeus as the king of the gods, the ruler of Olympus, the voice of thunder, the divine authority above gods and mortals. In paintings, statues, and modern retellings, Zeus often appears as the symbol of absolute power, seated above the world, holding the lightning bolt, surrounded by the confidence of a ruler who cannot be challenged. But the older story is more complicated, because Zeus did not begin as a calm king on a golden throne. He began inside a mythic world shaped by fear, succession, and unstable power. Before Zeus ruled, another divine generation ruled, and before that, an even older power shaped the cosmos. So the real story of Zeus is not only the story of how a god became king, it is the story of why Greek mythology needed a king at all. And once we see that, Zeus becomes more than a powerful figure. He becomes a question. Was Zeus truly remembered because he was the strongest god, or because Greek mythology needed him to represent the fragile creation of order? Because if Zeus is only a ruler, then his story is simple. But if Zeus is the answer to an older cosmic problem, then his image becomes much deeper. He is not just the god who sits at the top of Olympus. He is the figure who ends one age, begins another, and carries the burden of keeping the universe from falling back into the uncertainty that came before him. Most people know Zeus through a familiar image. He is the father of gods and humans. He rules from Mount Olympus. He commands the sky, thunder, lightning, law, kingship, and divine authority. This is the Zeus often described in summaries of Greek mythology, the chief deity, the protector of order, and the highest figure among the Olympians. Britannica describes Zeus as the god of the sky and the chief Greek deity, commonly represented with symbols such as the lightning bolt and the eagle. That image is not wrong, but it is incomplete. Because mythology rarely gives us simple characters. It gives us figures who carry cultural tension, and Zeus carries one of the biggest tensions in Greek myth, the tension between power and order. He is remembered as the god who rules, but the deeper story asks whether ruling was ever enough. Why does this matter? Because Zeus stands at the center of the Greek mythological imagination. If we misunderstand Zeus, we misunderstand much more than one figure. We misunderstand how ancient Greek stories thought about authority, family, fate, justice, and the fragile structure of the world. Zeus is not only a character in individual myths. He is the force that explains why the cosmos has a hierarchy, why oaths matter, why kingship needs legitimacy, why storms feel divine, why order must constantly defend itself against disorder. But that makes his story morally and emotionally complicated, because the same figure who represents order is also surrounded by stories of conflict, desire, rivalry, and contradiction. Greek mythology does not always present Zeus as perfect. It presents him as necessary, powerful, and deeply complicated. That distinction matters. A perfect ruler does not need interpretation, but a necessary ruler does. And Zeus may be one of mythology's clearest examples of that difficult idea. Power can create stability, but it can also inherit the anxieties of the world it replaces. The lesser-known perspective begins before Olympus became the center of divine power. In Hesiod's Theogony, the story of the gods is not a peaceful family history. It is a sequence of generations, each shaped by the fear that the next generation may replace it. Hesiod's work is one of the foundational ancient sources for Greek divine genealogy, tracing the movement from primordial beings to the rise of Zeus's supremacy. Zeus's father, Cronus, does not simply rule. He rules with fear. The old order is anxious because it knows that power has changed hands before. The divine throne is not secure. It has a memory, and that memory is succession. This is where Zeus becomes different. His rise is not only a victory over an older ruler, it is an attempt to stop the repeating cycle of divine replacement. That is the hidden perspective. Zeus is not only the son who overthrows the father, he is the god who must make sure the story does not continue endlessly. If each generation simply replaces the last, then the cosmos is unstable forever. But if Zeus can establish a lasting order, then Greek mythology gains something powerful, a structure that explains why the world, despite conflict, still holds together. This makes Zeus's kingship less like a simple reward and more like a mythic solution. He becomes the answer to a terrifying possibility. What if power never stops consuming itself? Different ancient sources do not always present Zeus in the same way. In Hesiod, Zeus is strongly connected with cosmic order and the establishment of a stable divine hierarchy. The Theogony moves towards Zeus's supremacy, presenting his rule as the culmination of earlier divine generations. Theoi's classical source collection also summarizes Zeus as the king of the gods and the god associated with sky, weather, law, order, destiny, fate, and kingship. But in Homeric epic, Zeus often feels more dramatic and relational. He is supreme, but not emotionally empty. He can be opposed, persuaded, frustrated, or caught within the tensions of the gods around him. That difference is important. Hesiod's Zeus feels like the architect of order. Homer's Zeus often feels like the ruler who must manage the disorder that still exists inside that order. One source gives us structure, another gives us tension. And together, they create a more mature image. Zeus is not simply the final answer. He is the one responsible for keeping the answer from falling apart. That is why source difference matters. It prevents us from flattening Zeus into a single modern stereotype. He is not only the powerful sky god, he is also the figure ancient stories used to think through a complicated question. How does authority survive when every form of power creates resistance? But here is where the story becomes difficult. Zeus ends the old cycle of fear, yet he does not completely escape it. He defeats the older order, establishes Olympus, and becomes the symbol of cosmic stability. But many myths still show a world filled with rivalry, divine disagreement, shifting alliances, and consequences that continue long after Zeus takes power. That is the contradiction. Zeus represents order, but his world is never perfectly ordered. He represents law, yet the myths around him often raise questions about justice. He represents kingship, yet kingship itself is shown as fragile, contested, and emotionally costly. This is the turning point in how we see him. The real Zeus is not interesting because he is all-powerful. He is interesting because even the highest power in Greek mythology cannot remove tension from the world. Olympus is not peaceful because Zeus rules it. Olympus is held together because Zeus constantly has to rule it. That difference changes everything. The emotional conflict behind Zeus is the burden of authority. In modern retellings, Power is often imagined as freedom, but in Greek mythology, power often comes with pressure. To rule is to hold together competing forces. Family, fate, prophecy, pride, loyalty, resentment, memory, all of these move around Zeus. He stands above them, but he is not outside them. That is what makes him complicated. Zeus is remembered as a king, but kingship in myth is rarely comfortable. It carries the fear of being challenged, the responsibility of judgment, and the danger of becoming like the older powers one replaced. The emotional cost is not only suffered by Zeus, it spreads across the myths connected to him. Every divine conflict, every disputed decision, every story of reputation and consequence becomes part of the larger question of what kind of order Zeus created. Was it stable? Was it fair? Was it necessary? Or was it simply the best form of order Greek mythology could imagine after chaos? These questions do not make Zeus less important. They make him more human in symbolic terms. Not human because he is mortal. Human because the problems around him are recognizably human. Power, memory, control, legitimacy, and the fear that the past may return. The bigger meaning of Zeus is not that ancient Greece imagined a powerful god in the sky. Many cultures imagined sky gods, storm gods, or divine rulers. What makes Zeus especially important is how Greek mythology uses him to think about order after instability. Zeus is the answer to a world that has already experienced rupture. He is not the first power. He is the power that comes after older powers failed to create lasting trust. This may be why Zeus remains so central. He represents a cultural hope that authority can become more than domination. That power, if joined to law, oath, custom, and balance, can become structure. But Greek mythology is too intelligent to make that idea simple. It keeps the contradictions. It remembers Zeus as protector and ruler, but also as a figure surrounded by moral complexity. It allows him to be necessary without making him flawless. And that may be the most important part. The Greeks did not preserve Zeus because he was simple. They preserved him because he could carry contradiction. He could stand for the sky and the state, thunder and law, kingship and conflict, order and anxiety. In that sense, Zeus is not only a mythological figure, he is a mirror of how societies imagine power. Every culture asks some version of the same question. Who should rule? Why should they rule? And what prevents order from becoming another form of fear? Zeus does not give a perfect answer. But he gives Greek mythology a central image through which that question can be explored. So perhaps Zeus was never meant to be seen only as the powerful king of the gods. Perhaps he was meant to be seen as the figure standing at the fragile center of a world that remembered what came before him. A world where power had changed hands before. A world where fear had shaped rulers. A world where order was not guaranteed, but had to be created, defended, and believed in. That is why the real story of Zeus changes how we see Greek mythology. Because behind the throne of Olympus is not only authority, there is memory. Behind the thunderbolt is not only strength, there is anxiety. And behind the king of the gods is a question the ancient world never fully closed. Did Zeus end the cycle of fear, or did he simply become the most successful ruler inside it?